In a quiet corner of Leongatha, Victoria, a homemade meal brought together four adults. It was meant to be a gesture of goodwill, a step toward reconciliation. But within a week, three were dead, and one was barely holding on. This is the Aaron Patterson case, the story behind the lunch that made headlines across the world. On July 29, 2023, Aaron Patterson invited her former in-laws, Gail and Don Patterson, along with Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, and Heather's husband, Ian Wilkinson, to her home for lunch. She and her ex-husband, Simon, had separated, but this gathering was supposed to be peaceful, maybe even redemptive. Aaron reportedly told her guests that she had been unwell, possibly even had cancer, and wanted to reconnect with the family. The meal she served? Beef Wellington, a dish traditionally made with beef fillet, duxelles, and pastry. But in this case, it may have included something else. Mushrooms picked or purchased by Aaron, some of which, as authorities would later find, were suspected to be Amanita phalloides, the deadly death cap mushroom. Not long after the meal, all four guests began experiencing severe symptoms: vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and signs of liver failure. They were taken to hospital, but despite treatment, three of them died within days. Gail Patterson, aged 70, Don Patterson, aged 70, Heather Wilkinson, aged 66. Ian Wilkinson, a 68-year-old local pastor, barely survived after a liver transplant and extensive ICU care. Meanwhile, Aaron herself showed no serious symptoms. She later claimed she also fell ill after the lunch, but many, including investigators, found that claim questionable. When authorities began digging, the inconsistencies started to surface. Aaron initially told police she used store-bought mushrooms from an Asian grocery, but when asked to clarify, she admitted she lied. She also acknowledged that she used a food dehydrator to prepare the mushrooms, a dehydrator she later threw away at a local tip, fearing it would make her look guilty. Investigators retrieved it. Aaron's fingerprints were on it. Then came something more unsettling. Search history on her devices revealed past queries related to mushroom toxicity, symptoms of poisoning, and even the lethality of specific fungi. These searches were made months before the fatal meal. By this point, public opinion was split, and the case had already gripped Australia. Aaron was no longer just a grieving host. She became a suspect in what was now being called the Mushroom Lunch Murders. In November 2023, after months of investigation, Aaron Patterson was arrested. She was formally charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. She pleaded not guilty to all charges. Her trial began in May 2025, nearly 2 years after that fatal lunch. The prosecution built a case around intent and deception. They argued that Aaron had lured her in-laws to lunch under false pretenses, that she knowingly served a poisonous meal, and that she did not eat from the same portion or did so only superficially. They highlighted her changing statements, the discarded dehydrator, and her prior search history as evidence of premeditation. They claimed she had motive: a strained relationship with her ex-husband's family, custody stress, and a desire to regain control. The defense took a very different stance. They painted Aaron as a woman overwhelmed, not malicious. She admitted to lying out of panic, but said the mushrooms were added unknowingly, possibly mixed with other store-bought types. She said the whole thing was a terrible, tragic accident. She cried during testimony. She insisted she never meant to harm anyone, especially people she once called family. After 9 weeks of evidence and 6 full days of jury deliberation, the verdict came in. On July 7, 2025, Aaron Patterson was found guilty on all charges: 3 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder. She now faces life in prison. Her legal team has not yet confirmed if they will appeal. This case is unsettling, not just because of how the victims died, but because it happened in such an ordinary setting: a Sunday lunch in a suburban home between people who once shared holidays and memories. It raises difficult questions about trust, about how far someone might go to reclaim control, and about how sometimes the most unthinkable stories don't begin with violence, but with a simple invitation to sit and eat. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Was this premeditated or an unimaginable mistake? And if you'd like more true stories told calmly and completely, subscribe to Echo Lens. We tell the stories the headlines rush through. Thanks for watching.